In this video, I'm going to be talking about language learning trauma, which is otherwise known as when you're learning a language and you go through a traumatic event in that language and it makes you never want to touch that language ever again. I'm going to be sharing with you two stories that are a bit traumatic for me, that really hurt me and put me off learning certain languages. And at the end of this video, I'm going to be sharing 4 ideas for those of you guys who are going through language learning trauma or will go through language learning trauma, how you can best handle it and bounce back from it. So the first story that I'm going to be sharing is my hospital from hell nightmare story. A lot of you guys know that I've been sick for a while. I have this thing called POTS. More or less, it's a syndrome where your body doesn't do the normal things it does to compensate against gravity, which means the blood that is in your legs don't go all the way back up to your head as it's supposed to. At its worst, I couldn't even sit up, let alone stand, for more than 30 seconds. Now, as you guys can see, I'm doing a bit better, but when this condition first hit me, it was very scary and it was a horrible experience. I couldn't get up, I couldn't sit up. My body felt like there was a 70-pound weighted blanket on all of my limbs, and I was rushed to the hospital. While I was there, I live in Belgium, by the way, so everyone at the hospital spoke French, the doctors, the nurses, everyone. I had a really bad experience. In the emergency room, I was met by a doctor who wasn't super nice. She thought I was just having anxiety or that I was tired. I literally was a 23-year-old dude who couldn't stand up. So it was extremely scary for me. I was trying to do my best in my French to explain what was happening. She didn't care to listen to me. I said, listen, I have my doctor that I normally go to. He knows what I have. Do you want to speak to him? She was like, no. Finally, I got her to speak to him, and the whole experience was horrible. I went to the hospital early in the morning. By around 6, 7, 8 o'clock at night, I was like, oh, I'm starving. I was asking the nurses in my French, j'ai faim. Je veux manger, like, est-ce que je peux, manger? Can I eat something? Quelque chose? And they were like, yeah, we'll bring you something. We're gonna be bringing patients something soon. 11 p.m., almost midnight, I'm getting moved from the ER to a different part of the hospital, and I still haven't ate anything, and I am starving. I am not feeling good. The doctor gave me an operation that I didn't need, so now I was feeling nauseous and in pain, couldn't stand, and I was begging this dude. I was like, s'il vous plaît, monsieur, j'ai besoin de manger, like, I need to eat. Thankfully, the dude who was moving my bed brought me something, otherwise I literally would have starved the whole day. The next day, I wake up, they do actually bring me breakfast, but at the same time, they took me to another place to do a spinal MRI. While I was at the spinal MRI place, the machine broke. I was there for way too long. I had to wait 2 hours in the hallway by myself because the people forgot to call the ambulance to take me back to the other hospital. So long story short, at like 7 p.m. I get back to the normal hospital. I haven't had anything again. Mind you, I'm at my weakest I've ever been in my life and they're not feeding me. It was a horrible experience. I remember after I did my spinal MRI just begging people for food, like anything. My phone had died, so I had no way to contact my girlfriend Brenda. This was an experience from hell, honestly. It was so bad. So there's a few details that I forgot to mention. Obviously, while all of this is happening, I don't actually know what I have. I know now, but I didn't know back then. I didn't know if I had cancer. I didn't know if I had a tumor. I didn't know if I was gonna die. All I knew is that I was a 23-year-old man who was not able to walk, and no one could explain why, because all my tests were normal. At the same time, I was doing my best to explain in medical terminology in French to people around me, like what I felt, the doctors, the nurses, and they didn't want to put in the effort to try to understand what I actually had, and it was already hard enough to try to describe what I had because I didn't know, and it was in French. And there was a lot of occasions where, for example, like I would press the button that summons the nurse because I have to pee, and again, I can't like actually get up, so they had to bring me this thing to pee in, and the nurse would come like 50 minutes after I pressed the button. Or if I was in pain, again, like 50-minute wait just to get some pain medication. Another thing was every single day they had to change the bed sheets, and I was like, listen, I can't sit up at all. Like I really can't sit up for like 20 seconds, please. Don't change the bed sheets, like it's okay, like I can sleep in this again. And they just weren't having it. So I literally, while they were changing the bed sheets, I had to lay down on the floor of the hospital and waiting for them, to wait for them. It was a horrible experience. Eventually Brenda had to come and rescue me. As you can see here, I was so weak when they rescued me from the hospital after being starved for more or less 2 days and just having this mentally and physically taxing experience. It was really, really bad. and it made me not want to speak French at all. At all. I was almost repulsed to hear the language after this experience, because this whole experience happened in French. And it was heartbreaking because there's a language that I was super excited to learn, and I always have been. So that's the first story. The second story is a bit more common. Perhaps you guys can relate to this. I was dating this girl, and we were dating for like around 3-4 months. She was from Latvia. Initially I met her in Latvia, and we, ever since I met her, it was just a romantic relationship. We were chatting literally every single day for like 3 months in Russian. We made plans to go to Prague. It didn't work out. Then we made plans for me to come visit her. That did happen. But like a week before I went to go visit her, I was detecting some weird kind of vibes when we were having conversations. I was like, you know what? It's in my head. Then when I get there, yeah, everything changed. She did not want anything to do with me, like at least romantically. She kind of gave me a tour of her country over the week that I was there out of pity, and I was trapped there. I couldn't go back home. I already booked my flight. So literally I was in this country with this girl who didn't want anything to do with me, who I thought she did. Literally, we've been chatting for the last 3 months. And yeah, I mean, that's kind of experience that hurts a young man's heart, to put it lightly. Yeah, it was, I laugh now, but it was not a fun experience to go through. I came to realize like the day before I left that she actually met a dude the week before I came. So yeah, that hurt. And that also consequently put me off of Russian for a very long time, literally a year. I was like, I don't want anything to do with this language. It brings back bad memories. And that is essentially what language learning trauma is. You build up this idea of this language in your head, like, oh my God, it's gonna be so great when I can speak it. And then it is great and you're able to speak it, but you go through bad experiences that make you feel like, fuck, maybe I shouldn't have ever learned this language in the first place. And it puts you off the language that you're learning. So if you've had this experience happen to you, I want to share 4 remedies that helped me with my language learning trauma and helped me get back on track with my languages. The first thing that you need to realize is if you go through a traumatic event in the language that you're learning, take a break. Immediately, take a break from it, because it's not worth for the language to remind you of painful events and for you to try to force yourself when you really don't feel like it to study, etc. It doesn't matter if that break is for 2 weeks or 3 months or 6 months, take the time that you need. The second thing is, and this is what I've been doing with French recently, re-engaging with the content and the reason why you started learning this language in the first place. One of the reasons why I learned French, obviously, was to communicate with my girlfriend Brenda, but also the main reason when, like, back before I even knew Brenda, was Stromae, the amazing Belgian artist. I love his music so much. So one of the things I did after this negative experience at the hospital is I started rewatching his music videos and re-listening to them and discovering other kind of cool French content to kind of build new memories to overlap or overwrite the horrible memories I did have of the language. The third thing that you need to do is you should realize that it is possible that your zeal or your passion for that language will never return in the same way that it used to be. This is kind of, I think a lot of people go through this with their first love. They realize that, you know, love afterwards could be just as strong, if not stronger, but it's not gonna feel the exact same. You shouldn't feel bad if you do eventually get to your language and you're like, I don't really enjoy this as much as I did in the past. That is completely natural, and it's just something that you have to come to accept if the cards fall that way for you. Last but not least, it's kind of cliche, but time does heal all, or at least it makes things much more supportable, using that word in more of the Spanish sense. But there's definitely a moment, you know, right after these things happened where I was like, I'm not touching these languages ever again. That's it, I'm done. Ugh. They really gave me a visceral kind of feeling. But lo and behold, 6 months later, a year later, I'm excited as ever to kind of get back into these languages because I gave them, you know, a sizable break, because I'm able to kind of overwrite existing memories with new memories of this language and to get myself excited about the language again. Obviously, it might never be the same as it was when I was more of a naive person and just thinking, wow, everyone who speaks French is just gonna be, it's just gonna be a party, it's gonna be a blast. But yeah, that's what I've come to learn, and I hope that this video can help people out there that have had to deal with traumatic experiences in the language that they've learned, and to let them know that they're not alone and that it is completely normal to feel how you feel. That's the video, guys. If you liked the video, be sure to subscribe and follow me for more content. Yeah, take care, guys. Bye-bye.